In today's video, we're going to be talking again about Reactor and displacement maps, but this time we're going to be looking at Reactor on photography. So previously, 90% of the examples that we've shown have been what does Reactor do to text and logos. But Reactor does indeed work on straight up photography as well, and in this video we're going to show you examples of how that looks. Let's do it. Okay, so here we are inside of Photoshop, and I'm just gonna load up Reactor, and I've got this image just downloaded from Unsplash, and let's just get right into it. I'm gonna increase power to 250, which is pretty high for most things, but on photography, you usually want a little bit higher power. So let's try Bubbles. Pretty dope. And Bubbles is also an image downloaded from Unsplash for free. You can see immediately what we get is a super crazy, distorted, trippy looking thing. It actually lends itself really well to the photograph, and the expression that this guy has on his face works really well with that. Let's try this. One click, you can see instantly we get this insane, almost like you're looking through like a glass window or something with like different angles of glass. So that's pretty dope. What else do we have here? This is an interesting image, and I want to do something a little bit different this time. So I'm going to turn power of Y all the way down and only use X, and then click play. That's actually kind of dope. And we can also animate displacement on photos as well. So in order to do that, we're just going to click animate here, and you can see everything you hover in Reactor has a little tooltip that describes what it does. So you can see works best on smart objects, enable timeline via window timeline. So we're going to do that, window timeline, and this will give us Photoshop's frame animation timeline, which shows us the different frames that make up our animation. And we don't have any yet because we have not ran Reactor. Next, we're going to also enable loop. This will loop the animation, so it'll run and then run backwards. This number 10 here, this refers to our frame count. So the higher we have this, the more frames Reactor will create, and also the longer it will take to animate. Let's increase to 300 and then just click play. Also, we're going to convert this to a smart object and then click play. So this will be interesting. I've not actually ran this map on this image with animation before, so I also don't know what to expect here. Let's just see what happens. I'm gonna click this little to first frame button to go back to the beginning and zoom out, and then we can click play and just see what we get. Actually kind of a trippy effect. I like that a lot. And so, after we've ran an animation, we can click between frames and just see what it looks like at these different points. I like to do this a lot because it means that we don't have to constantly rerun Reactor to see it at different strengths. We can run an animation and then just select the frame that we like best. And in this case, something in this range is really cool. So we can now take this and then go File, Export As, and then save this particular frame as an image and export it to something like Instagram or wherever you want to send it. And that could be the end of the story, but we're gonna do more. So I'm gonna go back now, I'm gonna Command Z and just undo that animation. And now let's check out some other images. So I'm gonna turn this back to 250 and turn off my animation and hide my settings. And let's go back and look at some other images. So let's try this one. This is just sort of a kind of a low fidelity looking gradient image that I got off Unsplash. I'm gonna click play. And now this one is just cracking the image and sort of displacing it. It almost, again, looks like glass, and I dig that. We can also stack multiple. Let's go into Unsplash again and search for abstract, maybe. Okay, cool. And maybe this. Let's just click play and see what we get. That's kind of crazy too. Not necessarily super flattering, but definitely a trippy looking effect if that's what you're going for. And the beauty of smart objects, and we made this a smart object, is that now we can toggle or delete these. Oh wait, the reason we can't is because, and this is an important note, if you run the image directly from Unsplash and you apply it directly like this, Photoshop is only storing that map temporarily. The reason this happens is because we don't want it to clog your computer up with insane amounts of displacement maps, which can get unruly. So what happens is it applies the displacement map, but it's not saving the map. So then Photoshop is unable to use it in the same way. It can't find it anymore after the fact. So that's why this happens. So if you want it to be reusable, click Save Map first. And then when you run it, you'll actually be able to toggle the displacement here on and off. So a bit of a misstep there at the beginning with that, but actually it was probably for the better because now I get to explain that. So you can see the effects that you can create. You get really, really interesting looking things. So this is kind of a distorted printer copy looking effect. If you ever see any action kits or plugins that do like this distorted photocopy effect, they're just using a displacement map with like a gradient like this. That's really all it is. And you can do that also with Reactor. So let's go and look for yet another image. So I'm gonna search for just abstract. And then maybe something a little more out there this time. Let's try this. Yeah, that's crazy. So now it's almost as if he's underwater or got some sort of layer of oil or something painted over the top of his portrait here. I think this is kind of a cool effect. I'd also like to show you this. If you go into your history states, you can click back between all of the different effects that you've created with Reactor. Every time you run Reactor, it's creating a temporary history state here, or a snapshot state that you can click and view. And also, if you would like to, you can right-click on one and do New Document, and it will create a new document from that particular history state. So now we have two documents, and we can mess around and do different things in each, and store a version that we liked, and then continue experimenting elsewhere. So now we've got this, and let's try to do something else. Let's use this. I don't know what this is. It looks like a long exposure. So we'll play that. It's okay. It's a bit intense. I'm going to Command Z that. Let's turn that down, and let's only run that on the x-axis. So it's going to stretch it kind of wide. I mean, that's okay. That's looking okay. Let's do more. So it's interesting. Obviously, by this point in the video, you realize that the map you use really determines the effect. So if you get an effect that you're not messing with a lot, just use a different image. Go back and search for something new and use a different image and you'll get a different effect. Something like this, where we just have a strong contrast, it's gonna result in a split. So if we wanted to demonstrate this, let's just run this high. Halfway through the image somewhere, it's gonna split this. So half of his face is gonna be over here, the other half over here. Easiest way to show you is just to play it and look at it. Okay, so that happens right here. But what if we wanted this to happen right in the middle of his face? We could also do that. This time we're gonna rasterize our layer, and I'm duplicating it so that we don't negatively affect our other one. So we still have a backup, right? Now we can go and make a selection and then run this wherever we want based on where our selection is. So I'm gonna actually save that so we have it for future use. Then go back to our saved maps and run it right there. Okay, that's decent. But what if I want it there? I just move it down, right? And then I can run it there. And we're getting effects now that are a little bit unruly and a little bit crazy. And so because we have our smart object still, we can go back to the original. And I'm gonna just delete the smart filters, and now we're back to the original image, no damage, and we can continue experimenting here. Let's look up orb. I don't know, I'm just searching random images here and seeing what kind of weird effects we can get from random different images. This one's actually kind of cool with the hands, and I feel like that's kind of complementary to what we've got here. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to actually manually position it. So I'm opening that image up. I'm going to go in, Command A to select the entire canvas, Command C to copy, go back into my image, and then paste it in, scale it however I want, position it however I want. Right there, this is going to be really interesting. I don't know what we're going to get. And now if I command click the thumbnail, I get a selection. And then when we run this, it's going to run it exactly in this, it's going to run it exactly where we see it. So the effect is going to line up perfectly with how our image is set. But we need to rasterize the layer in order to get this to work correctly. Let's click play. So that's kind of interesting. You can see how it's repeating up here. To fix that, we just go to settings and then do repeat instead of wrap. And now run that again. So yeah, definitely an interesting looking effect there. Another thing is you can create your own displacement map effects. You don't necessarily need to download a map. Another thing we can do is literally inside of the canvas that we're already operating on, come and just paint with a soft brush. Something like that. And then on the background, we're gonna command backspace. And this is a super, super simple example. Like we could get more scientific with this and do something really crazy and unique and cool. But we just wanna see the basics of this. So let's play now. So now we get this trippy ass face distortion effect, and the power's at 250, so that's why it's so intense, but we could obviously lower this a little bit, 90 maybe, or we could run it only on one axis. So let's only run it on Y now, 480 on Y, 270 on Y. So you can see the potential and the power to create some really interesting and unique looking portrait effects. If you were trying to create something sort of psychedelic maybe, this would be a good way to go. And like I mentioned before, you don't have to use Reactor for this. You can also use displacement maps this way: filter, distort, displace, set your settings here, and then just navigate onto your desktop or wherever and run it that way. It's a little bit more steps, but it's basically the same process, right? It's the same effect. Yeah, and we could run the same image. So what if we ran the image that we actually have open? See, that's kind of interesting as well. So this is what it looks like if we run our current image on our current image as the displacement and only on the y-axis. Okay fam, with that, I think that is gonna mark the end of the video. If you have questions at all about Reactor, you can definitely call us. Literally, in 2021, we have a phone number. So you can actually call and speak with a real Black Market team member, and we'll do live chats with you, and we will walk you through step by step whatever questions you have. Usually we'll walk through installation, troubleshooting, bug fixes, program features, whatever you need in real time. We're a phone call away. You can also email us, comment on this video, DM, whatever you want to do. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. I'm out.